In the year 2023, the world was on the brink of an unimaginable catastrophe. Scientists had warned for years about the potential dangers of new and mysterious viruses emerging from the depths of nature, but no one could have predicted the horror that was about to unfold. It started innocently enough, a small village in a remote corner of Southeast Asia. A virus, unlike anything seen before, silently infiltrated the human population. At first, the symptoms were subtle: a mild fever, a lingering cough. People dismissed it as the flu, unaware that an insidious force was at work, spreading like a shadow in the dark. As the virus evolved, so did its symptoms. Within days, the infected began to experience vivid nightmares, hallucinations that blurred the line between reality and terror. Whispers of the afflicted echoed through the village, tales of monstrous creatures that lurked in the shadows, feeding on the fear that gripped their victims. The nightmare was just beginning. The virus, now dubbed eclipsarum, proved relentless. It didn't discriminate based on age, gender, or social status. Panic spread like wildfire as cities succumbed to the grip of the unseen enemy. Governments scrambled to contain the outbreak, but eclipsarum defied all efforts to be subdued. With each passing day, the virus mutated, adapting to the feeble attempts to control it. The nightmares escalated, becoming more grotesque and horrifying. Infected individuals reported seeing loved ones turn into monstrous, otherworldly beings, driven by an insatiable hunger for the fear that consumed their victims. The world descended into chaos. Martial law was declared in many places, and people lived in constant fear of both the virus and their fellow humans. The streets were haunted by the wails of the infected, their once human faces contorted into grotesque masks of terror. As the global death toll rose, a group of scientists raced against time to unravel the mysteries of eclipsarum. They discovered that the virus had a chilling ability to tap into the deepest fears of its hosts, manifesting them in horrifying visions that tore at the fabric of sanity. Desperation led to controversial experiments. The scientists sought a cure, but their efforts only seemed to exacerbate the nightmare. The infected became more volatile, their hallucinations merging with reality in a horrifying blend of terror and despair. Survivors banded together in small, fortified enclaves, living in constant fear of the infected and the encroaching darkness. As the world teetered on the brink of collapse, rumors spread of a mythical patient zero, the source of eclipsarum, hidden in the heart of the jungle where the nightmare began. A daring expedition was mounted, a last-ditch effort to find the elusive cure and eradicate the virus. The jungle proved to be a nightmarish labyrinth, filled with twisted, mutated creatures that were once human. The expedition members faced their deepest fears as the line between reality and nightmare blurred into an indistinguishable haze. As they neared the heart of the jungle, the air grew thick with an oppressive darkness. The survivors stumbled upon an ancient, decaying temple, its walls adorned with grotesque depictions of the horrors that eclipsarum had unleashed upon the world. Deep within the temple, they discovered a chamber housing a mysterious artifact, the supposed source of the virus. As they approached the artifact, the nightmares intensified. Reality itself seemed to fracture, and the distinction between the living and the dead became indiscernible. The survivors hesitated, torn between the hope of a cure and the terror that gripped their very souls. In a moment of desperate decision, one brave soul reached out and touched the artifact. A blinding flash of light enveloped the chamber, and the survivors found themselves in a surreal dreamscape, a realm between the waking world and the nightmare. There, they confronted their deepest fears, battling monstrous manifestations of their own terror. Each survivor faced a personal hell, a twisted reflection of their innermost nightmares. The store was empty except for only by overcoming these horrors could they hope to escape the nightmarish grip of Eclipsarum. The battle in the dreamscape raged on, a surreal and terrifying struggle for survival. The survivors fought not only against the manifestations of their own fears, but also against the very essence of the virus itself. It was a battle of the mind, a war waged on the thin line between reality and nightmare. As the survivors triumphed over their fears, the dreamscape began to crumble. The artifact, once a source of terror, now emanated a soft, calming light. The survivors, battered and broken, emerged from the dreamscape back into the decaying temple. Miraculously, the nightmare had lifted. The virus, Eclipsarum, was no more. The survivors returned to the world they once knew, forever changed by the horrors they had faced. The once infected now woke from their nightmarish slumber, their minds freed from the suffocating grip of fear. But the scars remained. The world bore the indelible mark of the pandemic, a haunting reminder of the fragility of humanity. Cities lay in ruins, and the survivors struggled to rebuild amidst the remnants of a once thriving civilization. Eclipsarum had left an indelible mark on the collective psyche of humanity. The survivors, haunted by the memories of the nightmare, faced the daunting task of rebuilding a shattered world and finding a way to heal the wounds inflicted by the terrible virus that had nearly brought about the end of everything. And so, as the world slowly emerged from the darkness, the survivors vowed never to forget the horrors they had faced. The legend of Eclipsarum would be etched into the annals of history as a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of the fragility of human existence and the boundless depths of the human psyche. In the quiet town of Eldridge, nestled deep within the heart of the dense woods, an ominous secret lurked. A clandestine laboratory operated by an enigmatic organization known as Biojenks had been conducting experiments in the shadows, pushing the boundaries of science and ethics. Unbeknownst to the unsuspecting residents, a deadly virus was about to be unleashed upon the world. Dr. Victor Kane, the lead scientist at Biojenks, was consumed by an insatiable desire for power and control. He believed that his groundbreaking research could elevate humanity to new heights, but his methods were shrouded in darkness. In a twisted pursuit of scientific immortality, Dr. Kane developed a virus unlike any other, the Omega strain. The Omega strain was a ruthless and highly contagious pathogen, engineered to exploit the very essence of human vulnerability. Its insidious nature allowed it to remain dormant, silently infiltrating the bodies of its unsuspecting hosts. Days passed, and the infected showed no signs of illness, unaware that a malevolent force was silently at work within them. As the virus spread, Eldridge descended into chaos. Panic and paranoia gripped the once serene town, and its residents began to turn on one another. Friends and family became enemies, driven to madness by the invisible threat that lurked within. The streets echoed with the desperate cries of those who had succumbed to the Omega strain, their bodies racked with an otherworldly agony. The local hospital, now a battleground of life and death, overflowed with victims. Dr. Emily Harper, a compassionate physician who had dedicated her life to healing, found herself thrust into a nightmare beyond comprehension. The once bustling hospital corridors now echoed with the haunting moans of the afflicted, their eyes devoid of humanity. As the virus spread beyond Eldridge, governments scrambled to contain the contagion. But the Omega strain proved relentless, evading every attempt to control its malevolent march. Quarantine zones were established, cities barricaded, and borders sealed, but the virus persisted, adapting and mutating with a diabolical intelligence. Meanwhile, Dr. Kane reveled in the chaos he had unleashed. Obsessed with the idea of transcending mortality, he watched with cold satisfaction as the world crumbled. Unbeknownst to the desperate authorities, he had developed an antidote, a cure that could save humanity from the abyss. However, Dr. Kane had no intention of sharing his salvation freely. He demanded absolute allegiance from those who sought the cure, plunging the world into a dystopian nightmare. As the world teetered on the brink of extinction, a small group of rebels emerged. Driven by a desperate desire to save their loved ones, they infiltrated Biojinx's fortress, determined to seize the antidote and reverse the horrors that had been unleashed. The facility, a fortress of scientific malevolence, proved to be a nightmarish labyrinth of traps and horrors. The rebels faced mutated monstrosities, grotesque byproducts of the Omega strain's influence, as they delved deeper into the heart of the laboratory. Dr. Kane, aware of the threat to his dominion, unleashed his most twisted creations to thwart the rebels. Each step brought them closer to the antidote, but the cost was steep. The group dwindled, their courage tested in the face of abominations that defied reason. Finally, after a harrowing journey through the bowels of Biojinx, the remaining rebels confronted Dr. Kane. A madman driven by his delusions, he reveled in the suffering he had wrought. A climactic battle ensued, the rebels fighting not only for their lives, but for the survival of humanity itself. In the end, the rebels prevailed, and Dr. Kane's reign of terror was extinguished. The antidote was secured, but the world lay in ruins. Cities were decimated, populations decimated, and the scars of the Omega strain ran deep. The survivors faced the daunting task of rebuilding, as the remnants of society struggled to rise from the ashes. A chilling realization set in the shadows of Eldridge still whispered of untold horrors, and the legacy of the Omega strain lingered in the air like a malevolent specter. The world would never be the same, forever marked by the scars of a terrible virus that had tested the limits of humanity's resilience and endurance. In the quiet town of Eldridge, nestled in the heart of a dense forest, an ominous silence descended as the sun dipped below the horizon. Unbeknownst to its unsuspecting residents, a mysterious laboratory hidden deep within the woods had been conducting experiments that would soon unleash an unimaginable terror. Dr. Evelyn Sinclair, a brilliant but misguided scientist, had been conducting research on a new strain of a virus with the potential to revolutionize medicine. In her pursuit of glory and recognition, she neglected the ethical boundaries that should have guided her work. The virus, codenamed Project Hydra, was designed to enhance the human immune system, turning ordinary individuals into resilient beings capable of overcoming any ailment. Late one fateful night, a catastrophic accident occurred in the lab. A containment breach allowed Project Hydra to escape its confines and infiltrate the air, water, and soil of Eldridge. Unseen and unheard, the virus silently crept into the town's homes, schools, and businesses. At first, the effects of Project Hydra were subtle. Residents experienced a strange sense of euphoria, accompanied by heightened senses and improved physical endurance. Eldridge seemed to be on the brink of a medical breakthrough. However, this was merely the calm before the storm. As days passed, the side effects of Project Hydra became increasingly sinister. Residents began reporting horrifying nightmares that blurred the lines between reality and the macabre. Soon, the once close-knit community descended into madness as paranoia and fear gripped every corner. Physical deformities manifested in those infected, turning once ordinary people into grotesque creatures with distorted limbs and disfigured faces. Eldridge became a nightmarish landscape, with mutated beings prowling the streets, seeking to infect others with the malevolent virus. As the situation escalated, the outside world became aware of Eldridge's plight. Government agencies, clad in hazmat suits, descended upon the town, attempting to quarantine the contagion. The once idyllic community was now a ghost town, with abandoned homes and streets echoing the cries of the infected. Survivors struggled to escape the clutches of Project Hydra, but the virus proved relentless. Those who managed to elude the mutated inhabitants faced a fate worse than death, a slow and agonizing transformation into monstrous entities themselves. The once beautiful forest that surrounded Eldridge now stood as a haunting testament to the horrors that unfolded within its depths. Rumors circulated of a desperate search for Dr. Evelyn Sinclair, the catalyst behind the town's doom. Some believed she had succumbed to her own creation, while others speculated that she continued her experiments in secret, hidden away in the darkest corners of Eldridge. The world outside Eldridge watched in horror as the town became a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of the consequences when the pursuit of scientific advancement ignores the moral implication. Project Hydra had forever altered the course of human history, leaving behind a town consumed by a terrifying virus where the boundary between life and death blurred into an unending nightmare.